It has been quiet on the Western Front for Boston College football as the transfer portal has been absolutely kind of silent for the Eagles. It's been a good thing, though.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and then if you're a big fan of Monopoly Go, you need to check it out. The mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly, so join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. So we are now entering hour 49 plus of the transfer portal. You know, I had said just a week ago, I was expecting not an apocalypse of the transfer portal, but another huge swarm of activity, and that Boston College would not be immune to that news. But we're heading into day 3, and there hasn't been any news other than Joseph Griffin Jr. So Joseph Griffin Jr. has entered the portal. We said that on yesterday's episode, and we talked all about that. But that's just one player. I mean, even last year, you had 3-4 players enter the transfer portal after spring practice. You're still at one. And now, there's two ways to look at this. One, you could be saying, okay, Bill O'Brien's got his ducks all in a row, and he's got his team believing in him. That's not a bad thing. I could totally see, like, you know, if you got your guys there and he believes in him and the players are believing in him, then hey, all the power to him. That's a good thing to have. Or there's also the potential that we're just kind of delaying things. Maybe, you know, spring ball ended on Saturday. He said at a practice earlier in the spring that he was going to do exit interviews with all his current players. Maybe this is just taking a while, and this is going to take a little bit of time before guys enter the portal. Regardless, I still think whether there is no guys, which is potential, or it's a late arriving party, I think BC is going to end this transfer portal period in good shape. There's not going to be, right now, it looks like any big surprise, which is what I said earlier. I said, don't expect Thomas Castellanos or Lewis Bond or Donovan Azaraku to enter the portal. And I still believe that's going to be the case. But I still think maybe you're going to get a name or two that's going to kind of trickle in. And you're going to go, oh, maybe that's interesting, whatever. But there's also the potential that nothing happens. Now, I still think there will be a name or two. And I look at some of the schools around the country, and some schools that are portal heavy are getting hammered. And the school that I think everyone's looking at right now is Colorado. Deion Sanders has this whole approach where he's just buying his team through the transfer portal and trying to get them on campus to do the best that they can. These guys are mercenaries, and to an extent, every guy is. If you think that your player that you have loves your school, I got a story to tell you. But Deion brings guys in that are even more mercenaries than most college football teams. These guys find out they're on second teams or not going to start. They're hitting the door faster than anyone can say, right? I think Colorado has like 15 or 16 guys already in the portal. His experiment is going to be a gigantic failure. But this is not about Deion. Deion's fun to talk about because he's so divisive. Like the way he does things is just like he gets you to talk about it. But you look around college football itself and you're seeing transfer portal guys all over the place, but you're not seeing BC guys. And I think that says something about the way this team is built. I think BC has a lot of guys here that want to be here. They're okay if they're not going to be a starter, or, you know, they're going to work their way up. They're going to get their education. They're going to be okay about that. And that's what makes BC special, is that they got guys like that. Now, I want to also say that even though there isn't a ton of action in the portal on the exit side, I have seen some names that BC is probably getting involved in. I have a name of a defensive back that I see them involved in up on our site. So I still expect you have at least 3 spots that have entered since the end of the last transfer portal period. Charlie Godinier, Hans Lillis, and Joseph Griffin Jr. There's 3 spots that you can fill in the transfer portal. So they have some flexibility. And let's put like maybe 2 other names. That gives you 5 transfer portal spots. You can get what you need there. And as I've said, defensive back would be a position I'd look at. I would say interior offensive lineman might be something, linebacker. There's a series of positions I think BC could look at. Quarterback is not one. I'm going to make that really clear. Bill O'Brien, the one caveat to that I would say is that Bill O'Brien is a quarterback's guy. And maybe Thomas Castellanos and Grayson James aren't the kind of guy he wants. Maybe there's a guy out there in the portal that he's seeing and going, oh, there's the quarterback of our future. We'll go after him. That might happen, but I don't see it as a huge possibility. So the portal, it's been quiet, and it's so funny because I'm a media guy, and I know guys that in the SEC and Big 12, and they all have all this like unlimited content to talk about. And here I am at Boston College, and it's quiet. And I was expecting it to not be quiet, but that's the way it is. It's all quiet on the BC front. Now, in a moment, I want to get to the basketball team again, where it has not been quiet. Oh boy, has it not been quiet. I'll give you the latest updates on the basketball team, where the transfer portal search could lead, and everything in between. We'll get into all of that in just a moment. Now, I want to get into our good friends over Yahoo Finance, our sponsor of Locked On BC. Wouldn't it be great if you could see all your investment and retirement accounts in one place? Why waste your time looking around? With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. I have an investment account with Schwab and a 401k with Fidelity, and I've been using Yahoo Finance to consolidate them in one place, which has made it incredibly easy to manage. You can securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. A comprehensive perspective is what sets apart great investors. And it's how Yahoo Finance ensures you have the right insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand new and ever great website, yahoofinance.com. A number one financial destination is yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black, and we're talking a little bit about basketball here. We're in transfer portal season. There's baseball, there's lacrosse and softball, but other than that, every other sport is in transfer portal mode. For basketball, there's been 6 players that have entered the transfer portal since the end of the season when BC lost at UNLV in the NIT. We've seen Mason Madsen, Claudel Harris, Jaden Zachary, Prince Aligby, Devin McLaughlin, and Armani Mighty all into the transfer portal. And I don't know what the deal is with this. And I want to say, I said on yesterday's episode, my gut and from what I've heard from the buzz behind the scenes, This is not a Earl Grant problem. This is not a problem of anything that he's doing as a head coach. There's other things going on, and I would guess if I was a betting man, I would say it has to do with NIL. I think that a lot of that has to do with that. And so we're now in this process where this team has to be completely rebuilt. BC has lost their entire starting lineup. The entire starting lineup and their sixth man are all gone. You're down to, I think, your sixth leading scorer, Donald Hand, who enters this year averaging 5 points per game. He is your leading scorer that's returning, and that is terrifying. You've added in Chad Venning, a center out of St. Bonaventure, averaged over 10 points per game. Look good. You also added Josh Beadle out of Clemson, a guard, averaging 4 points per game. You worry about that, but you hear a lot of Clemson fans saying his potential has not been untapped, is a little bit untapped. With Earl Grant, that's the kind of guy maybe you want to add that you can add for depth. That's not a bad thing. But you still don't have you're missing a lot of spots here. I think you still have 3 or 4 transfer portal spots that you can add to. Now, I want to preface this as saying that BC may not use all of those spots in the transfer portal. They may still go back into the recruiting classes out there and try to land another recruit, true freshman, or maybe try to get someone to reclassify. Maybe there's a class 25 guy that you're like, oh, hey, we have this spot. Maybe we can add you in. Now, there's been names that have been linked to BC. If you follow along on Twitter, some guys have like the schools that have contacted them. It's like 60 teams long, and it's like that doesn't mean anything. But there's a few players I think that are worth watching, and one of them was eliminated, and one I think is brand new. So Deontay Green from Florida State was one name I was watching for, but he just committed to USF, and he did that on Twitter. I mean, this is not a big loss. I mean, he is a guy that was a borderline 4-star recruit, but then transferred, recruited to Florida State. He averaged like 4 points per game. It's not like you're losing a ton there. He goes to play for USF in their nauseatingly green uniforms. If you haven't checked out what Green's wearing, go find Deontay Green on Twitter and see the picture that he's wearing. It looks like ecto slime on a uniform. It's god awful what he has to wear. But hey, good luck. Go have fun at USF. And I'm not judging. I'm just saying, that USF has had more success than BC lately, so that's fine. But the name that I'm watching, and the one guy that I think that BC may have a head up on, is power forward Amani Hansberry out of Illinois. He was a top 100 recruit last year, excuse me. He played 1 year for the Fighting Illini. He averaged, I think, like 5 points per game, so he wasn't a huge player. But he was a top 100 recruit. He was a 4-star, and he had BC in his final groupings at one point. So he could be a guy BC is looking at. I don't think this is a guy that's completely out of the realm of possibility. Like most programs, the bigger programs at this point, when they're looking at transfers, they're looking for guys kind of like Devin McLaughlin, right? Like established, have done stuff. Hansberry hasn't done a lot, so he might be a good fit for Boston College. He might be a guy that you could use. And you just lost McLaughlin, so you need a guy like this. He's basically the same build and everything. He's a little taller and a little heavier than McLaughlin, but he's got the pedigree. And the fact that he already gave up on Illinois says a lot. I've heard BC's very heavily involved in this. I think he's a guy that BC could go after, and he could fill a big need for this program, right? He's a guy that could come in and, develop just like we saw with McLaughlin into something at BC. So he's someone I'm excited about. Number 61 national recruit last year. He was a guy that BC got in early. I remember Earl Grant got in early, and then he just blew up. And, if you follow BC recruiting, anyone who just blows up, BC usually loses. And that's just the facts of life. Like BC does not have the resources to keep those kinds of guys. But the fact that he's back in the portal is a good thing. He's a Maryland guy, which is usually an area I think Corey McRae is around that area. So BC could land somebody there. Now, I also think with the rest of these, unless you hear BC linked to somebody, I'm expecting a whole bunch of names you've never heard of. That's we saw it with CJ Penna. We've seen it with Claudel Harris, who, Claudel Harris wasn't a no name, but it was someone just completely kind of out of the blue at one point. With the way BC is, the way that NIL is funded through Boston, through the fans, I don't expect them to bring in some huge names. They need some shooting guards. Oh my God, do they need a shooting guard? They don't have one right now. I'm a little worried about where they're at with that. But Hansberry might be a name to watch for. And a lot of the other names that BC has been linked to have already announced everywhere else. So this is one I just wanted to throw out because I think it's interesting to watch. And hey, there could be the potential that BC's not really all that interested either. But that, with the portal, this is the kind of speculations that we do here. And I do at Eagle Insider as well. In a moment, I want to get into the last discussion of the transfer portal, going pro, and that freshman line at Boston College. Talking about hockey here, folks. We'll get into that in just a moment. We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard is not looking good. You're feeling low. Not sure if your team can pull it out. That's when you dig deep, lift your head up, and say to yourself, "Time to get back in the game. Pull off some bank heists and take as much friends' money as possible." That's right. The smash hit mobile game, Monopoly Go, lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone. Anytime with tons of twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do. Play in countless dynamic Monopoly boards. Make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. Charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, and download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or on Google Play. This is Locked On Boston College, AJ Black. And if you have not done so already, head over to Eagle Insider. Right now, if you're listening on Thursday, we have 50% off our Eagle Insider VIP subscription. You're getting basketball, hockey, recruiting, scoops, football, baseball, everything, all in a beautifully tight package with some great writers. I think you're going to enjoy it. And it's all for the cost of a cup of coffee. Get over there, sign up today, become a subscriber. We're the biggest community of BC fans out there, and I hope you join us. Now, let's talk about hockey. Hockey ended their season last week, and we don't even want to talk about it with that loss to Denver. 2-0, Matt Davis. We don't need to get into that again. Now, since that game, BC hockey has had some news around the roster. To no one's surprise, Cutter Gauthier has entered the NHL. He's going to end up with the Anaheim Ducks. The Ducks, remember, got his rights after he refused to sign with the Philadelphia Flyers, and he got all those lovely fans from Philly who wished him nothing but good wishes. He's gone, but that wasn't a surprise. We all knew Cutter was going to go. But the bigger deal is that freshman line. Gabe Perrault, Will Smith, and Ryan Leonard. Would they stay? And as of the time of this recording, all signs point to yes. And that is enormous because you lost Gauthier, who should have been the Hobie Baker winner if you didn't pick Will Smith. Now you have your core returning. You're bringing in Hagens, one of the best recruits in college hockey. You're going to bring back Jacob Fowler, your insanely good goalie. And all of a sudden, all the fretting, the bad feelings that you had about that Frozen Four loss to the Pios, you're starting to feel like, huh, maybe they can run it back. And Ryan Leonard, he's the one that officially announced that he's back. He said, I talked to Cutter Gauthier, who told me how important it was that he came back to get things together, and I want to go back and finish things with BC. So it's April 17th. We're a week removed from the Frozen Four, and I think everyone now has their favorite Eagle going into next year. That's Ryan Leonard. This guy is an Eagle through and through. And the bad feelings I had after that loss are gone. I just want hockey back now. I want to see this team get back on the ice because they're bringing in good freshmen. They've got their core back. You know, they just lost Kobe Ambrosia to the transfer portal. That stinks. He's a glue guy. But for the most part, your team is rock solid. You're going to be able to they brought in a kid, a transfer, and Bedard. I think he was from Holy Cross, if I get his name right. I know he's more of a third or fourth line guy, but you're bringing in, you're going to get a few guys in the portal. But that freshman line, I think that's what everyone wanted. And again, this kind of goes back to that NIL discussion that we had yesterday. The fact that you're able to keep these NHL level guys on campus and not entering the NHL or the transfer portal shows that BC can compete in the NIL era. They just had to do it the right way. So this is cool. Love to hear that these guys are back. And maybe BC can get back and get that revenge on Denver. Would be lovely to see. We'll be back again tomorrow with more news, whatever's going on, transfer portal, recruiting, everything in between. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Check out my work at Eagle Insider and hit that like and subscribe button before you head out to make sure you get your daily dose of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.